Welcome back to the Anime Chan channel. Today, I'm recapping the anime Solo Leveling. If you enjoy my recaps, please consider subscribing. We open on an island where a group of hunters is battling giant monster ants. Their leader tells the team they can't retreat and must hold their ground. Unfortunately, they're quickly overwhelmed. The leader is losing consciousness, and one of the ants is eating him alive. Just when it seems like he's done for, a healer with powerful magic arrives and saves him. The leader panics because the healer is about to get attacked too, but he's also saved in the nick of time. The healer calls on his teammate to finish off the ants. And this guy is a beast, taking down the monsters with ease. The original group realizes they were just the side characters, and the rescuers are S-rank hunters, the elite of the elite. After wiping out the red ants, a massive albino ant appears. The attackers engage it, while the healer tends to the injured leader. With impressive teamwork, they tear the ant apart, and the powerful warrior uses one of its limbs to obliterate it. Just when they think it's over, an army of albino ants appears. The mage powers up his lightning, and the brute transforms into full-on Hulk mode, tearing through the ants. Their intense battle is visible from the city, where another hunter, Troy, is relieved they made it in time. He's also busy handling a serious ant infestation in the city, lighting them up with flames alongside his exterminator team. We learn that 10 years ago, portals to another dimension appeared, unleashing monsters into the world. Only people with special powers, called hunters, can fight them. Hunters are ranked from S to E based on their abilities, but once their powers awaken, they can't grow stronger. 3 years later, a construction site becomes a dungeon raid spot. A hunter named Park, who had quit hunting but returned due to financial pressure, arrives. He needs money fast since his wife is pregnant with their second child. We meet the protagonist, Jinwoo, known as the weakest hunter ever. His reputation is so bad that people joke they need a new rank, F rank, just for him. Despite the insults, Jinwoo knows they're right. He's incredibly weak. During a raid, Jinwoo gets injured again, but it's no surprise since even the team didn't bring a healer for such a low-level dungeon. His friend, Juhi, is angry about how he always gets hurt, but Jinwoo blames himself for his weakness. The team enters the dungeon, with Suchul as the leader, and Jinwoo is given a small knife, the only weapon he can afford. Elsewhere, the president of the Hunters Association, Ju Ki, finishes a meeting with the government. They're concerned about dungeon breaks but also want the magical items hunters bring back. These items, like magic gems, are incredibly valuable, especially as a potential new energy source. Back in the dungeon, Jinwoo manages to get his hands on a magic gem, but when a goblin attacks him, his blade shatters, and he's stabbed. He's saved by a teammate while Juhi heals him. The team defeats the dungeon boss, but Jinwoo feels useless and wonders if being a hunter is worth the risk. The group discovers a massive hole leading to what they suspect is a double dungeon, something rare but lucrative. Despite the risks, they vote to explore it, with Jinwoo casting the deciding vote, driven by his financial responsibilities and family burdens. Meanwhile, in the city, a famous S-rank hunter named Chahi deals with a purse snatcher like it's no big deal, while fans swarm her for autographs. Back in the dungeon, the team explores for 40 minutes without finding anything. Jinwoo apologizes to Juhi for dragging her along, but she's more concerned about his well-being, scolding him for always risking his life. Just as the team discovers a boss room, they're met with massive ancient doors. Kim insists on going in, despite the eerie vibe. In another part of the city, new hunters are in orientation, being warned about the dangers of dungeon raids. They watch a video by Gunhee, who explains how portals have been around for over a decade, and even experienced hunters can get killed if they're not careful. This team seems to have forgotten those warnings as they enter the room, finding statues that look centuries old. Jinwoo notices a massive one, while Juhi gets spooked, swearing its eyes moved. Suddenly, the door slams shut. One of the team members tries to leave, but a statue instantly slices him in half, sending everyone into a panic. Jinwoo, terrified, locks eyes with the giant statue, and it looks right back at him. As chaos unfolds, Jinwoo remembers all the dangerous situations he's survived in the past. His weak equipment and lack of skills make him a constant target in dangerous dungeons, yet he continues to fight to support his family. In the present, the giant statue fires a massive beam of energy, killing more team members and leaving everyone in shock. Juhi trembles in fear, and Jinwoo wonders how they ended up in such a deadly situation. He knows, deep down, that he won't survive forever if things continue like this. Just as the tension reaches its peak, Suchul tells the group to stay calm, but will that be enough to save them? Because things are about to get intense. Jinwoo and the others are frozen in place because if they move, that massive statue is going to strike again. Jinwoo, he's paralyzed with fear, but then Song steps in and thanks Jinwoo for the earlier warning that saved their lives. Song's a tough guy, but even Jinwoo's shocked to see that he's lost an arm in the chaos. Jinwoo tries to stop the bleeding, while Ju, the group's B-rank healer, is freaking out. She's a decent healer, but she's not used to this kind of pressure. Song's been through plenty of B-rank raids, so he knows this statue isn't just a rank. He suspects it might even be S-rank. Jinwoo remembers something about the tablet they saw earlier, something about praising God or facing consequences. Suddenly, it clicks. This statue must be the god the tablet was talking about. Now, quick backstory. 10 years ago, these gates started appearing everywhere, unleashing supernatural chaos. People started awakening special powers and became hunters, tasked with taking down monsters in the dungeons. Jinwoo's one of those hunters, but back at school, his sister's telling her friend how Jinwoo always ends up hurt in these raids. The girl can't believe it and even jokes that she'd make a better hunter than Jinwoo. Harsh. Back in the dungeon, Song tries to come up with a plan, but one guy gets impatient. He's just signed up with a famous guild and doesn't want to die now. He's confident his insane speed will get him out of there, and for a second, it looks like it might. But then, the statue disintegrates him, leaving just his fast feet behind. That's when everyone realizes this statue could wipe them out in an instant. But it's not. Why? Jinwoo thinks it might have something to do with the first commandment, worship God. He gets a determined look in his eyes and stands up, locking eyes with the statue. Song's worried, but he's also amazed. Jinwoo's not giving up. At the last moment, Jinwoo figures it out. He tells everyone to bow down. He thinks that by showing respect to God, the statues won't attack. And it works. Well, at first, everyone's bowing, scared out of their minds, but the statue doesn't strike. Just when they start to think they're safe, the statue makes a terrifying face and stands up. Everyone's panicking. But Jinwoo's still trying to figure out the next step. The second commandment? Praise God. So, this one brave dude steps up and starts praying. The monster slows down, and for a second, they think it's working. But Jinwoo knows better. Suddenly, the statue stomps the guy into the ground. Chaos breaks out. People scatter, and one by one, they're getting picked off by other statues. Jinwoo's running around, desperate to figure out how to survive. He tells everyone to head toward the statues holding instruments. Turns out, those statues won't attack. They start playing music instead. But Jinwoo's in trouble. He's in front of the wrong statue, and it's about to crush him. Jui's screaming, but just before he's finished off, Jinwoo reaches the right statue. It starts singing, and the giant statue finally sits down. Crisis averted. Well, almost. Jinwoo's safe, but his foot's been ripped off. He tries to tell Ju he's fine, but she's in shock and determined to heal him, even though she's barely holding on herself. Everyone's shaken up after that raid from hell. Some guy even blames Song for losing his arm, saying it's karma for leading them into this mess. But Song takes full responsibility. Jinwoo, though, knows they don't have time for this. There's still one more commandment left. Out of nowhere, the giant raises an altar in the middle of the room. Jin Woo recognizes it from legends. It's for sacrifices. The third commandment, prove your faith, and someone's life is the price. Kim suggests sacrificing their leader, Song, since he's to blame for all this. But Jin Woo points out that everyone voted to come down here. As Song approaches the altar, fire erupts, and he asks Jin Woo what else they need to do. Jin Woo's the smartest and bravest in the group, but even he's got no answers yet. The gate's been open for a week, and Jin Woo knows what that means. If they don't beat the dungeon boss soon, it'll be a dungeon break, and the beasts will cross over into the real world. No pressure, right? Meanwhile, back in the real world, Jin Woo's sister visits their mom, who's in bad shape. Back in the dungeon, Jin Woo's rallying the group. He thinks they need a flame for each person. And when they do, the door finally opens. But wait, are the statues moving toward them? Everyone panics, but Jin Woo stays calm. He realizes that as long as they keep their eyes on the statues, they won't move. It works. Everyone's watching the statues, and they stay still. But one girl gives in to fear and bolts for the door. Her flame goes out, but she makes it through. The door closes slightly behind her, leaving everyone inside confused and looking to Jin Woo for answers. And guess what? Even Jin Woo's stumped this time. Jin Woo begins analyzing the situation once more. He notices that the blue flames have been burning out slowly, one of which disappeared when that girl managed to escape. The first command was to revere, the second to praise, and the third was to prove their faith. Jin Woo is certain that the door is some kind of trap, designed to mess with their minds, giving them false hope. It's as if this entire ordeal is a twisted test of their faith in this so-called God. Suddenly, Jin Woo is thrown to the ground when another guy decides to make a run for it. His flame flickers out. The door closes a bit more, but he seems to have escaped. Kim starts contemplating whether he should follow suit, but Jin Woo quickly warns everyone, don't move. If anyone else tries to leave, they won't have enough people keeping an eye on the statues, and the statues will start attacking. He reminds them that as long as they keep their eyes on those terrifying figures and stay still, they'll be safe. Once again, Jin Woo flexes his deduction skills, pointing out that the blue flames are acting like a timer. When all the flames burn out, they might be free to leave. However, Kim counters, saying there's also a chance they could be trapped forever when the timer runs out. Though he admits he didn't expect Jin Woo, the weakest of them all, to keep them alive for this long, Kim's got a family waiting for him. He doesn't want to die and can't take the risk that Jin Woo might be wrong. Apologizing, Kim bolts for the door. Without enough eyes on the statues, they start moving again. But Jin Woo isn't ready to give up. He's faced impossible odds before, and despite everything going wrong, he pushes through. To Jin Woo's surprise, Song Chel tells him and Ju to escape. He believes that as long as someone stays by the altar, the door will stay open. Since Jin Woo and Ju have their lives ahead of them, he insists they be the ones to make a run for it. However, Jui's body is starting to give out. She's pushed herself too hard trying to heal Jin Woo. Realizing how bad things have gotten, Jin Woo tells the others to leave him behind. Ju needs someone to carry her out, and Song is the only one with 2 functioning legs. Ju protests, saying she should stay, but Jin Woo reminds her about the lunch date they planned. He hands her a gem, joking that she should treat herself to a meal with it and promises to get the change when they make it out. Reluctantly, Song apologizes and knocks Ju out, grabbing her and making a run for the exit. Jin Woo accepts his fate, comforted by the thought that at least he's the only one who has to die. His only regret, not having better life insurance. Gripping a sword, he prepares to take down one of the statues with him. He knows he won't survive, but he's determined to go down fighting. The statues tear into him, and despite his agony and the mocking voices that have followed him for being weak, Jin Woo keeps fighting with everything he's got. Even as they chop off his arm, he screams in pure rage, furious that after all his efforts to grow stronger, this is how it ends. But his resolve doesn't fade. He reflects on how those who ran away were weaklings, selfish cowards who only looked out for themselves. That realization fuels his anger even more. He has a family too. All he wants is to survive and make it back home. As the final blow crashes down, Jinwoo wishes he could have fought just a little longer. Then, out of nowhere, the last blue flame flickers out, and a mysterious notification pops up. Jinwoo has completed his secret quest, Courage of the Weak. A new opportunity arises, become a player. If he doesn't accept, his heart will stop within seconds. With no choice, Jinwoo presses yes. Suddenly, Jinwoo wakes up in a hospital, stunned to find that his arm is still attached. His leg is intact, and there's no sign of the stabbing that nearly killed him. Was it all just a nightmare? Before he can process everything, a man named Wu shows up, introducing himself as the manager of the Hunter Association's surveillance team, accompanied by a purple-haired guy named Kong. They reveal that Jinwoo was unconscious for 3 days, but the real shock is that Song and Ju are still alive. Song lost an arm, so his career as a hunter is probably over, and Jui's mental state is a wreck. Only 6 survivors made it out of that hellish dungeon. Wu theorizes that Jinwoo might have experienced a second awakening, an incredibly rare event that could boost a hunter's abilities far beyond their original power. Excited, Wu pulls out a device to test Jinwoo's mana levels. But when the results come back, the excitement fades. Jinwoo scores a measly 10, barely civilian level. The mystery deepens as Wu and his team leave. The dungeon, the statues, everything vanished after the survivors were rescued. But as Jinwoo reflects on it all, a strange, floating message appears before him. It seems like only he can see it. Confused, Jinwoo wonders if this is connected to the notification about becoming a player. Later, Jinwoo accepts a daily quest from this mysterious system, which tasks him with push-ups, sit-ups, squats, and running. If he fails, there will be penalties. Despite still being in the hospital, he begins to realize this system might be real and not some hallucination. At midnight, a notification pops up saying Jinwoo failed his quest. The ground begins to shake, and Jinwoo suddenly finds himself in a vast desert, confronted by giant, terrifying caterpillar monsters. The system presents him with a penalty quest: survive for 4 hours. Back in the hospital, the nurses are panicking. Jinwoo is nowhere to be found. Meanwhile, Jinwoo is running for his life, desperately trying to avoid being devoured by the monstrous creatures. Just as the timer hits 0, Jinwoo is transported back to the hospital, having barely survived. He receives his reward, but he's too exhausted to notice, collapsing on the spot. The strange system isn't done with him yet. Jinwoo stops to reflect on how absurd his life has become, realizing it feels like a video game. While he's messing with his screens, people around him are staring in confusion. He completes his daily quest and, as a reward, receives a random loot box. Today's loot? A mysterious key, which is a big deal since he usually gets junk like pens and bandages. A notification pops up saying the key is for teleporting to an instant dungeon with a location provided. Jinwoo has no idea what an instance dungeon is, but given everything that's been happening, he assumes it's some event designed to help him grow stronger. In this world, gates open up constantly, and there are even news reports tracking them. Jinwoo goes to visit his mom, recalling how he found her unconscious. She suffers from a condition called final rest, which appeared when the gates first opened. Some believe it's caused by exposure to mana. Modern medicine can't do much except keep her on life support. Jinwoo worked his butt off to become a hunter to pay for her treatment. He once promised his sister Jenna that he'd make enough money to help their mom, but Jenna was terrified of the dangers of being a hunter. Jinwoo tries to calm her fears, telling her things will be better now, but deep down, he knows he's been pretty useless in combat. Determined to change that, Jinwoo focuses on training, pouring all his ability points into strength. He even crushes an apple to show off his progress. Fully committed to getting stronger, He heads to the dungeon location provided by the key, ready for whatever awaits. If things get too dangerous, he's prepared to run. When he pulls out the key, a keyhole magically appears. He unlocks it, revealing a mysterious gate, which he steps through. Immediately, a notification pops up. He's entered an instance dungeon, and the exit is sealed. Regular people can't even see it. This place exists in a different dimension. Jin Woo realizes this dungeon isn't like regular gates. It feels more like a red gate, but he's never experienced one before. A notification informs him the only way out is by defeating the boss or using a teleportation stone. He's never been strong enough to take down even an E-rank beast before, and now he's got to clear a whole dungeon by himself. Jin Woo questions whether he's up to the task, but decides he has no other choice. As he moves forward, his confidence starts to waver, especially when a group of goblins appears. He flashes back to the time he was stabbed, and the goblins charge at him with wild ferocity. Despite his fear, Jin Woo manages to dodge and block their attacks. Eventually, he stabs one of the goblins, boosting his confidence. He takes down the rest, feeling stronger than ever. Out of nowhere, a stronger beast appears and shatters his dagger like it's nothing. Jin Woo can tell this creature is on another level compared to the goblins. Paralyzed with fear, he realizes his legs are trembling, a leftover trauma from his last raid. The beast launches an attack, and Jin Woo barely dodges it, but it still manages to scratch him. With no healer in sight, one more hit could be fatal. The monster howls and charges again, but Jin Woo, dodging like a pro, can't believe how light his body feels. As the creature comes at him again, Jin Woo is done playing the victim. He throws a powerful punch, stunned by how much stronger he feels after leveling up his strength. The monster still has the upper hand, but Jin Woo isn't about to give up. Realizing his attacks aren't doing much, he decides to flee. He's got no party, no healer, just water and food in his bag, and he wishes he had a better weapon. Then it hits him. He checks his inventory and pulls out a sword just in time. With one swift strike, he slices the beast in half. Jin Woo can't believe his luck. It turns out Kim had dropped 3 million on this sword, and now Jin Woo's using it in the fight of his life. But the battle isn't over. 2 more monsters show up. He's not scared anymore, but his sword gets stuck in one of the beasts, and he panics as the monsters close in. At the last second, he frees the sword, kicks one of the wolves away, and tells the other to find something else to chew on. He takes them both down, thinking they're nothing compared to the giant statue he fought before. Finally catching a break, Jin Woo realizes he's leveled up to 2, something that never happened with his daily quests. He figures it's because this was real combat. Each level up increases his stats by 1 point, and he earns 5 points from real fighting, compared to just 3 from daily quests. Combat is way more efficient for leveling up, and Jin Woo is more convinced than ever that strength is the key stat. With his strength now at 32, he feels unstoppable. Jin Woo searches the fallen beasts for essence stones but instead finds items, just like in a video game. He's surprised to discover that his system has a shop, but his level is too low to buy anything yet. At least he can sell stuff. He manages to get 20 gold from a monster's tooth, though he's unsure how much that's worth. He remembers he's in an E-rank dungeon, so it's probably not much. Now Jin Woo faces a tough decision. He can't leave until he beats the boss, and he has no clue where to find a teleportation stone. To make matters worse, if he stays too long, he'll run out of food. He knows he's not strong enough to take down a boss yet, so he considers leveling up first. But before he can think too much, an entire pack of wolves appears. Jin Woo steels himself, reminding himself that he knows what dying feels like. This time, he charges at the wolves, slicing through them with relentless fury. He's getting stronger with every fight, and he's determined to follow the system's rules, no matter how absurd. After defeating the wolves, a notification informs Jin Woo he's earned the title Wolf Assassin. The title boosts his abilities by 40% when fighting animal-type monsters. When he checks his inventory, he finds a bunch of fangs, a cloak, and, most importantly, a teleportation stone. He's tempted to use it and escape, but he hesitates. This might be his best chance to grow stronger, and if he leaves, the dungeon could disappear forever, like a limited-time event in a game. Now, he's faced with a tough choice: fight on or make his escape. Jin Woo decides to keep moving forward. Meanwhile, Ju gets a call from the Hunter Association informing her that there's been a dungeon break at a nearby gate, and they're short on healers. Feeling guilty for turning them down before, she thinks, Jin Woo worked so hard, I've got to step up. Back in the dungeon, Jin Woo continues fighting, noticing that as his level increases, it's becoming easier to take down monsters. Even the system's color codes start changing. White means weak, orange means they're a match, and red means they're serious threats. The wolves that were once red are now white, showing just how much Jin Woo has leveled up. He's becoming a beast. However, he senses a powerful monster lurking downstairs, one he's not ready to face yet. His perception skills are sharp, and whatever's down there is so terrifying it gives him chills. His sword is nearly broken, and he's hit a leveling cap in this area. But Jin Woo's goal is clear. He wants to get stronger, so he decides to head down the stairs, knowing it's risky. As soon as he reaches the bottom, something attacks with lightning speed, barely giving him time to react. His sword snaps in half as a massive serpent emerges in front of him. Jin Woo's mind races. Despite all his leveling up, this beast is still marked as orange, meaning it's no joke. He instantly knows this is the dungeon boss. The snake's scales are too tough for his broken sword to pierce, and fighting without a weapon would be a death sentence. When the snake strikes, Jin Woo goes all out, but he's quickly overwhelmed by the serpent's power. With no way to break through its defenses, he's forced to run. The snake lashes its tail like a beast, and Jin Woo knows one hit could finish him. He tries to block, but still takes serious damage. The snake doesn't let up, tossing him around like a rag doll, and even launches a train at him. Jin Woo narrowly avoids getting crushed and starts questioning himself. How much stronger does he have to get before he can stop being seen as weak? He remembers when people called him the weakest hunter, and it hits him hard. Song was the one who revealed that, and it motivated Jin Woo to prove everyone wrong. But now, as the snake overpowers him, Jin Woo is thrown into a new area of the dungeon. That's when it clicks. He was called weak because he was weak. That's why he was mocked. Jin Woo realizes that those with power always dominate, and the weak have no choice but to cower and be looked down on. You can be smart, creative, or caring, but when raw strength shows up, none of that matters. Jin Woo decides kindness won't get him anywhere. He has to get stronger. With this newfound determination, he jumps back on the snake. The monster throws him off, but Jin Woo swears to himself he'll keep getting stronger. Suddenly, his body begins to glow. Dodging the snake's attacks with newfound agility, he strikes again with his sword, even more resolved now. He compares the fear he feels now to the terror of that disastrous raid in the past, and he declares this fight is going to be easier. Jin Woo pulls off an impressive move, using his sword to ride the snake, then tosses it aside and grabs the beast with his bare hands. He admits to himself that ever since he got the leveling system, he's been laser-focused on boosting his strength, and now he's going to rely on that. With sheer physical power, he starts crushing the snake's tough scales. The serpent thrashes, trying to throw him off, but it's too late. Jin Woo knows he can kill it. With an overwhelming surge of strength, he demands the snake die, and finally crushes it. A notification pops up. He's leveled up several times. Laughing in disbelief, Jin Woo says, "I really got stronger." The scene opens on the aftermath of a massive battle. A notification pops up, announcing that Jin Woo has just defeated the Swamp King. As a reward, he gets an epic dagger made from serpent's fangs, twice as powerful as Kim's sword and equipped with paralysis and drain effects. On top of that, he receives a toxic potion that will make his skin tough as nails. But with a catch, it'll permanently weaken his muscles. Suddenly, the dungeon morphs into a train station, and Jin Woo realizes he's conquered it all by himself. While wandering the now empty dungeon, still holding his broken sword, a soldier approaches Jin Woo, telling him to find shelter. However, the soldier quickly realizes Jin Woo is a hunter and apologizes, saying, "Let's team up and take out some monsters." Monsters have overrun the area, and Jin Woo figures this must be a dungeon break. A magic beast has escaped from a portal. The soldier mentions they've almost dealt with everything, but one massive monster remains. Thanks to his heightened perception ability, Jin Woo pinpoints the location of the final boss, a giant golem causing havoc, with terrified civilians scattering in fear. The hunters struggling against it are doing their best, but their attacks barely scratch the golem. The leader orders the healers to focus on the tank, but they're already pushing themselves to the limit, frustrated by the tank's demands. The damage dealers are also maxed out, but the golem's defenses are too strong. To make matters worse, they lack enough magic using hunters to deal real damage. Jin Woo, analyzing the situation, sees that this group of hunters was thrown together hastily, which explains their lack of coordination. Using his perception ability, he discovers that the team consists of 2 C rankers and 2 D rankers, one of whom is the tank. No wonder they can't bring down the golem. Jin Woo then spots Ju, one of the healers, and recognizes her from a past event. One of the hunters orders her to pitch in, reminding her that she's a B-rank healer, but Ju hesitates, haunted by memories of the giant statue from before. Her fear clouds her focus, but Jin Woo doesn't blame her. He feels the same unease. Despite the intensity, Jin Woo realizes that this golem is a much weaker D-rank boss compared to the one he just fought. As the battle drags on, the hunters start losing hope, knowing they stand no chance without higher-ranked reinforcements. Jin Woo gears up for action, planning to help by breaking through the golem's defenses. He throws his busted sword with immense force, shattering the golem's shield, allowing the hunters to finally make progress. The tank realizes their attacks had been useless until that moment and deduces that the broken sword must have been what cracked the golem's defense. After the battle, the tank is in disbelief that a ragged sword could defeat such a powerful foe, especially since none of the hunters were strong enough to scratch it. He asks if anyone saw who threw the sword, but no one knows. Jin Woo had already vanished, keeping his power a secret. Jin Woo reflects on the battle, surprised by how much damage he caused with just one attack, unsure if the monster was already weakened or if his strength had grown beyond his understanding. Time passes, and we cut to a hospital, where nurses gossip about Jin Woo's rank, commenting on how average he looks but how shredded he's become. In his room, Jin Woo is grinding through his daily workout, and the nurses can't stop swooning over his rapid transformation. One even falls for him after seeing him post-workout, but Jin Woo, oblivious, thinks she's just interested in sending him his test results. Soon, Jin Woo is discharged from the hospital, and the nurse nervously asks for his number, but he doesn't pick up on the vibe. Meanwhile, Dake, an S-rank hunter who recently defeated the giant ants, is shown training. He's one of the 7 S-rank hunters in the country and talks about the constant need to train like a beast. Jin Woo's strength hasn't gone unnoticed either. Even his sister notices he's grown taller and reminds him to stay on top of his training. Afterward, Jin Woo decides to allocate his newly earned stat points, dumping them into strength and perception, figuring that being able to land hits is just as important as dealing damage. Shortly after, Jin Woo gets a call from his landlord about overdue rent, but now that he's stronger, taking down goblins is a piece of cake, making it easier to earn money. However, he knows he needs to tackle higher-level dungeons to make serious cash, and with no one letting an E-rank hunter into those, Jin Woo considers getting his rank reevaluated. Yet, reawakenings are rare. and no one's ever seen a hunter level up like he has. For now, he decides to keep his powers hidden. One day, Jin Woo stumbles across a job listing and bolts out the door. He meets up with a hunter named Hung, who explains they're heading into a C-rank dungeon but need at least 8 people to enter, so they want Jin Woo to fill the spot, even if he's just an E-rank. Jin Woo agrees, knowing he won't have to fight, and Hung promises him 2 million yuan as payment. As they gear up, Jin Woo notices that the team consists of 4 C-rankers and 2 D-rankers, with no healer, which makes him wary. Inside the dungeon, the team is surprised to find no monsters, only pitch-black darkness. This reminds Jin Woo of a previous dungeon, and he tells the group to stay alert. Soon enough, they discover they're inside an ant's nest, and the battle begins. The hunters, led by Hung, show solid teamwork, but Jin Woo can't shake the feeling that something is off. He quietly kills one of the ants and notices that several of the creatures are already damaged, not from their weapons but from something much stronger. The dungeon progresses, and the team eventually stumbles upon a massive haul of monocrystals. While these aren't as valuable as essence stones, they're still worth a fortune. However, before they can celebrate, they realize the dungeon boss, a giant spider, still lurks ahead. They prepare for the final showdown. Since they forgot to bring the transport gear, Hung tells Leo and Jinwoo to chill while he goes to retrieve it, assuring them that the spider won't wake up unless provoked. He reminds them they're new to rank D dungeons and asks them to trust his decision, as he has business to discuss with his team. As Hung leaves, Jinwoo starts analyzing the situation, finding it strange that there aren't any experienced hunters helping them meet their quota. From a distance, we see how ruthless Hung is as he orders his crew to seal off the boss's chamber. Leo realizes they've been betrayed, confirming Jinwoo's earlier suspicions. Jinwoo recalls how Song warned him about the shady side of dungeon raiding, where accidents and crimes can easily go unnoticed. Without survivors, there's no evidence. Leo is furious, realizing Hung's crew is willing to throw them under the bus for monocrystals. He regrets mentioning the contract, but Jinwoo wasn't fooled. He knew they were always at risk of being eliminated. Now, their immediate concern is the spider, which has woken up. Leo tells Jinwoo to retreat, but Jinwoo spots an exit. Unfortunately, he realizes Hung already knows about it. The spider is fully awake, and Jinwoo recognizes that this C-rank beast is on a whole different level. Still, he's not backing down. Jinwoo steps forward, telling Leo to stand back because he's going to take on the spider himself. He summons his weapon and declares that he's going to defeat it. As Hung's crew flees, one of them asks why they didn't just kill the newbies themselves. Hung explains they couldn't risk waking the spider, which they need to stay asleep to harvest the monocrystals. He's confident that Jinwoo, with no experience, and Leo, the weakest hunter, stand no chance against the spider. Their plan is to let the spider take care of him, then grab the monocrystals once it's asleep again. If that fails, they'll at least take Leo's expensive gear. Hung admits that neither he nor his crew could defeat the spider themselves, making it clear how dangerous the boss truly is. Inside the dungeon, Leo tries to convince Jinwoo not to fight, insisting only a B-rank hunter could solo a C-rank boss. Jinwoo knows Leo's right, even though he's had a second awakening and leveled up. He realizes this spider is far more powerful than the D-rank bosses he's faced before. But for some reason, he's not afraid. At level 18, Jinwoo believes he has a real shot at taking it down. As he engages the spider, he acknowledges that this is where the real hunt begins. Meanwhile, a big shot named Goto, president of the Hunters Association, is bored after a series of dull meetings. His driver offers to spar with him, and Goto can't resist, enjoying the challenge. Back in the dungeon, Jinwoo quickly realizes the spider's tough skin and powerful attacks are overwhelming. If it lands a single hit, he's done for. Leo watches in disbelief, noticing that Jinwoo's movements are far beyond what an E-rank hunter should be capable of. He starts questioning if Jinwoo is actually a false ranker, someone who intentionally registers at a lower rank to deceive others. As the fight drags on, Jinwoo's fatigue begins to mount. He knows he has to finish this quickly. His daggers have paralysis and drain effects, and he figures that targeting the spider's weak spots will be his key to victory. But when the spider unleashes an acid attack, Jinwoo is caught off guard. He decides to use a new skill called dash to close the gap and strike, but the debuffs from his daggers don't seem to be working. Still, Jinwoo refuses to give up, continuing to push himself despite his exhaustion. Just as Jinwoo is about to be crushed, he remembers he has one last reward from his daily quest. He cashes it in, fully recovering his strength. Leo, thinking Jinwoo was a goner, is shocked when Jinwoo launches a renewed assault. This time, he lands a decisive blow, stabbing the spider in the eye and finally bringing it down. A notification pops up, confirming that Jinwoo has defeated the dungeon boss. Jinwoo realizes how lucky he was to save his reward for this moment. Leo is in awe, convinced now that Jinwoo is a fake ranker. After the fight, Jinwoo collects a valuable gem from the spider, while Leo offers to carry the supplies, clearly idolizing Jinwoo. Just then, Hung and his crew return, surprised to find the newbie still alive. In a training room elsewhere, Goto shows off his strength, overpowering his sparring partner with ease. Despite his age, he's still in peak form, and he offers words of wisdom about the harsh reality of dungeon life, where only the strong survive. Back in the dungeon, Hung's crew mocks the spider for losing to low-level hunters. Hung reveals to Leo that he knows about his wealthy background but doesn't care. Then, Hung gives Leo an ultimatum: either kill Jinwoo and join their crew, or die alongside him. He admits they usually kill new recruits to keep all the loot for themselves, but he's giving Leo a chance to switch sides. Hung sees Leo as a potential threat because of his powerful gear, but Leo shocks him by choosing to side with Jinwoo. Hung, furious at the betrayal, orders his crew to kill both Leo and Jinwoo. Jinwoo, receiving an urgent mission, knows it's time to fight. The mage targets Jinwoo, while Leo watches in fear. As the battle intensifies, Jinwoo starts taking out members of Hung's crew one by one, his debuffs and quick strikes proving too much for them. Eventually, only Hung is left standing. Hung, believing his reinforced body makes him invulnerable, launches his attack, but Jinwoo, now far stronger than before, easily outmatches him. Hung tries to bribe Jinwoo, but Jinwoo isn't interested in money. He reminds Hung that whatever happens in the dungeon stays in the dungeon, and then finishes him off. With the mission complete, the dungeon begins to collapse. Jinwoo and Leo manage to escape just in time. When they emerge, the officials are skeptical that these two low-ranking hunters could have taken down the dungeon boss. However, Jinwoo receives a reward for his victory, gaining a new skill that terrifies enemies. Despite everything, Leo praises Jinwoo for a job well done, and the two of them share a moment of relief after the chaos. Elsewhere, Goto hears about the incident and is shocked to learn that Jinwoo was one of the survivors. He realizes that Jinwoo is much more than he appears, and this could be the beginning of something much bigger. Jinwoo heads home and tells his sister he's going to cover their mom's hospital bills for a while. Gina's surprised and assumes he must have made big money from his last raid, especially since he's not even injured. She figures he had a strong team that made it easy, but Jinwoo admits it was a breeze, not just because he was stronger, but because he didn't hesitate to finish off the bad guys. In the past, he would have looked for an escape route, but now, he was irritated they even thought they stood a chance. He wonders if leveling up made him bold, but reminds himself they were still human, not dungeon monsters. Gina snaps him out of his thoughts, reminding him why he's getting stronger, so he can survive and protect his family. If he had to face that dungeon again, he'd do it the same way. Suddenly, Jinwoo detects something harmful in his body from what he's drinking, but notices he's not getting drunk. A notification pops up revealing a reward from the double dungeon that cancels out toxins and enhances his healing abilities. It all clicks for him. This is why he regrew his arm. Things are getting intense. Later, Jinwoo meets up with Leo, who's grateful for being saved. Jinwoo waves it off, not expecting anything in return. But Leo drops a bomb. He's assembling a strike team. Jinwoo shuts him down before he can ask him to join. But Leo insists, saying he only needs Jinwoo for 19 raids. Leo wants to become a guildmaster, which requires 20 completed raids. His dad plans to create a guild for his construction company, and Leo's eager to help, knowing dungeons are dangerous but lucrative. It's not just about the mana crystals and essence stones. Everything in the dungeons has value. Jinwoo gets it. It's a smart business move. Leo's dad wants an S-rank hunter as the guildmaster, but Jinwoo is shocked since there are only a few S-ranks in the country. The only available S-rank is a retired one, so Leo's dad must be planning to poach a hunter from another guild. Jinwoo warns him that this will make enemies, but Leo pushes on, suggesting Jinwoo keep his power hidden by teaming up with a lower-ranked hunter like himself. Leo shows Jinwoo the building they plan to use as guild headquarters, worth a massive 30 billion yuan, offering it in exchange for Jinwoo's help with the raids. In the past, Jinwoo would have jumped on the offer, but now, knowing he can level up, he's certain he can reach S rank or beyond on his own. However, his powers are still unpredictable, and teaming up with someone would be risky. He declines the offer, leaving Leo disappointed. Meanwhile, Hong's younger brother, Wang, is furious about his brother's death and demands to know more about the survivors. His assistant, Laura, tells him that if there's a treaty with the country where the incident happened, he could face consequences for killing someone there. Wang wants to act but is reminded he has too much on his plate, so he postpones his revenge for now. The next day, Jinwoo goes jogging with his sister and asks what she'd do with 30 billion yuan. She can't even imagine that kind of money. Later, while running solo, Jinwoo notices his system counter keeps going even after he hits his goal. He decides to test how far it can go and figures out it stops at double the goal. After trying out all the tasks, the daily quest goes into stealth mode, offering random loot boxes. He chooses a blessed box and hits the jackpot. Another key, this time to the Demon King's castle, a high-level dungeon. Even better, it comes with ingredients for the elixir of life, which can cure any illness. Jinwoo visits his sick mother, knowing he has no choice but to venture into this dangerous dungeon for the elixir. He opens the gate with the key, stepping into a realm engulfed in flames. He's scared but prepared, with his teleportation stone as a backup plan. A giant monster appears, stronger than anything he's faced, but Jinwoo is determined to win. Despite his best efforts, the monster deals brutal damage, even tearing off his arm. With his health dropping fast, Jinwoo uses his full recovery reward to heal and regrow his arm. As the fight rages on, Jinwoo barely manages to survive, using potions and strategies to stay alive. The monster activates a rage skill, making it even more deadly. Just when Jinwoo is about to lose hope, he remembers the shop in his system and quickly buys healing potions. Despite the odds, he manages to outlast the monster's rage, delivering the final blow and defeating Cerberus, the gatekeeper of hell. A notification reveals that Jinwoo has earned the key to the demon's castle, along with the recipe for the elixir of life. However, he realizes that venturing into the castle now would be suicide. He's not strong enough yet. Determined to level up, Jinwoo agrees to join Leo on the 19 C-rank raids. But with one condition: they'll do the raids alone. Just the two of them. Leo's shocked since C-rank raids usually require a team of 8, but Jinwoo insists, pointing out that if they succeed, it will be incredibly impressive. Leo agrees, ready to face whatever comes next. Elsewhere, Cha is training hard, aware someone is watching her. Meanwhile, Leo's dad tells him that since the gates appeared 10 years ago, the world's infrastructure relies on dungeon resources. The guilds are the ones profiting the most from this new reality. monopolizing the vast resources of the dungeons. The top 5 guilds, Hunter, White Tiger, Reaper, Fame, and Knights, are raking in all the profits. Leo's dad isn't about to let things slide. He's firm on the fact that they need to set up their own guild to get where they want to be. Leo's thinking about how risky it would be to bring in an outsider to team up with his brother. But if his dad puts him in charge, that problem's solved. Meanwhile, Jinwoo is out running, but he notices that none of his extra effort is being counted anymore. That cursed loot box he was offered isn't even on the table now, so he pulls out a regular one, hoping for something decent. Instead, all he gets is a bingo card. Definitely not what he wanted. As time passes, Jinwoo keeps training but realizes that the 3 points he's getting don't really help anymore since he's leveled up. Leo still needs to get his act together before they can tackle the C-rank dungeons, but Jinwoo has a thought. If he can get back into that penalty zone, he might have a shot at taking down the centipede from before. He knows it's going to be a tough fight, though, and there's no guarantee he'll even gain experience from it. Just then, Jinwoo gets a notification to join a D-rank mission, but it's from the Hunters Association, meaning he can't go solo this time. Over at the dojo, Song is finishing up training a kid who wishes he'd fought Song when he was at his best. Song, being real, tells him he can't change the fact that he only has one arm now. Then Song gets a notification about a raid, and the kid asks why he hasn't retired yet. Song reflects on some painful memories and the fact that he's lost a major part of himself, prompting the kid to apologize. Song admits his prime years are behind him, but he still wants to contribute while he can. Elsewhere, Kim is playing with his daughter while his nervous wife watches. He gets the same notification and knows it's time for his next raid. His wife, remembering how he barely survived the last one, urges him to think about doing something else. Kim, though, reminds her that they need the money, especially since their daughter is about to start school. He reassures her that the Hunters Association doesn't send low-ranked hunters on dangerous missions, except for that one time. Meanwhile, Beck is furious about having to do a pointless interview, and it only annoys him more when Mr. Choi tries to flatter him. Beck calms down when Choi tells him he's perfect for the job. Choi reveals that Eugene Construction is starting its own guild, but Beck already knows. He presses Choi to get to the point. In Ji's room, her mom straight up tells her to give up on being a hunter. Even though Ji is a B rank, her mom still thinks she'll just get in the way and wants her to come home. Ji, frustrated, tells her mom to stop trying to control her life and proves her independence by hanging up. Despite her doubts, Ji still wants to improve, and just then, she also gets the D-rank raid notification. Back at the office, Chahi walks by Beck and mentions that a scout from Eugene Construction approached her to be their guildmaster, but she turned them down. Now she's curious what Beck and Choi discussed. Later, Beck is at a bar, reflecting on their conversation. He thinks about Jojo Island, which has been off-limits since a failed raid, and how people are trying to forget the horror of that place. But Mr. Choi can't forget. He views himself as humanity's weapon and plans to clear the island, and for that, he needs Beck and the crew to be on the same page. They need to get stronger, gather allies, and sway public opinion. That's why he arranged the interview and had Chahi train new hunters. Choi reminds Beck that he left something important on the island, triggering Beck's memory of losing old friends in that dark place. At Jinwoo's house, Gon is shocked by how active he's been. The old Jinwoo used to need weeks to recover after each gate, so she wonders if all his training is paying off. Jinwoo heads out on a mission without even taking his gear, worrying her, since he's acting like it's just a regular trip. Meanwhile, Song reflects on how his awakened ability isn't connected to physical power, even though he's spent years mastering martial arts. In a dungeon, his magic-based abilities make his sword useless against magical beasts. Suddenly, he runs into Jinwoo and notices how different he looks. Song assumes some high-ranking healer helped him, as his own injury was left untreated for too long. They reach the gate and are surprised to find it's a reunion of sorts, 5 survivors from that fateful day, back together. Elsewhere, Ji sees Jin Woo for the first time in a while and is shocked by how much he's changed. Then, some shady guys start checking Ji out, but Kim steps in, telling them to back off. Turns out these guys are prisoner substitute hunters, criminals working off their sentences. Song can't believe they have to fight alongside convicts, but their leader assures them they won't be a problem. Just in case, Kong, a B-rank hunter, is there to keep the criminals in check. Jin Woo advises Ji not to join the raid, but she refuses. The criminals are freed, and even they question whether this is a good idea. Kong quickly reminds them of the consequences if they step out of line. Jin Woo lets Song take the lead, and Song appreciates it. He feels responsible for failing that day, and gives Jin Woo credit for saving everyone. As they enter the dungeon, the prisoners wipe out goblins with ease, and Song marvels at how much stronger Jin Woo has become. Ji notices that Jin Woo hasn't even been hurt yet, and she hopes her healing skills won't be needed. As they progress, they reach a fork in the path. Jin Woo senses the boss is down one path but keeps quiet, suggesting his group takes the left. The dungeon has been easy so far, so they decide to split up to finish quicker. Kim, meanwhile, is determined to apologize to Jin Woo for abandoning him during their first raid. Down the other path, the prisoners easily defeat another group of goblins. Kong then asks the convicts if they think they could handle humans as easily as goblins, setting up a darker revelation. Kong reveals his backstory. A man came to him, furious that 3 criminals who assaulted his daughter would soon be free. The man offered Kong a hefty sum to take care of him during a raid. Now, Kong plans to carry out the job by killing the convicts and blaming it on the goblins. Kim, taking a different path, stumbles upon Kong as he's massacring the prisoners. Kong changes his plans and prepares to go after Kim. Back with Jin Woo, he hears screams and rushes over to find the dead prisoners and a severely injured Kim. Ji works her healing magic on Kim, but Song realizes that no magical beast could have caused this. The wounds are too precise. Kim, near death, apologizes to Jin Woo and then passes away. Just as Kong attempts to kill Ji, Jin Woo steps in, impressing Kong with his speed. The battle intensifies as Song tries to fight Kong but is clearly outmatched. Despite Ji's healing, Song struggles, and just as Kong prepares to finish him, Jin Woo finally steps in to end the fight. Kong is shocked by Jin Woo's strength and suspects he had a second awakening. The two face off in a fierce battle, and Kong, obsessed with killing, reveals that he takes more pleasure in killing people than monsters. As the fight reaches its climax, Jin Woo manages to gain the upper hand, exposing Kong's true nature and putting an end to the bloodshed. Jin Woo's system alerts him, just like before, that there are enemies targeting him again. He receives a quest to eliminate them. As a dark power engulfs him, Kong, who thought he had the upper hand, is caught off guard. Jin Woo attacks, and Kong is shocked to realize he's been poisoned. The fight continues, but Kong has a surprise, a stealth skill that makes him invisible to sight, sound, and smell, a rare ability among hunters. Kong lands a hit on Jin Woo and tells the others to wait, confident that Jin Woo won't be able to fight with an injured leg. But to his surprise, Jin Woo instantly heals. Kong is stunned. He's never encountered a combat hunter who can heal. Jin Woo's unpredictability makes him a dangerous opponent. Jin Woo calmly states that he's lost another emotion and no longer needs to get angry to deal with people like Kong. Kong realizes Jin Woo has killed before, which shocks Song, who figures Jin Woo has made some tough choices, changing not just his appearance but his whole demeanor. Kong tries to attack again, but Jin Woo tracks him by sensing his bloodlust. Just as Kong prepares another move, Jin Woo activates his fearsome skill, engulfing the area in darkness. Kong is frozen in place as Jin Woo's blade pierces his chest. As he dies, Kong reflects that they are alike, both killers, but he was simply the weaker one. Before passing, Kong wonders what Jin Woo truly is. as he possesses assassin-like stealth, healing powers, and debuffs, something Kong has never seen before. Jin Woo doesn't reveal much but confirms Kang's end. After the fight, Jin Woo drops a truth bomb. He grows stronger with every battle. Kong, in his final moments, warns Jin Woo that chasing too much power could lead to it controlling him. After completing his quest and earning rewards, Jin Woo starts noticing that the more powerful he becomes, the more something within him feels broken. Afterwards, his friends thank him, but Jin Woo tells them to leave the dungeon. They're stunned, realizing he plans to clear it alone, but they know he's strong enough. Meanwhile, Woo is shocked to find out about Kang's secret killings and is equally surprised to learn that Jin Woo is one of the only survivors of a mission. Woo apologizes for what happened, but is more concerned about who took out Kong. Jin Woo considers keeping his secret, but before he can confess, Song lies and says he killed Kong with the help of a healer. Though Woo is skeptical, he accepts the story for now. Jin Woo reminds himself not to get overconfident, realizing Woo is an A-rank hunter with immense power, someone he wouldn't stand a chance against at his current level. Song seems to understand Jin Woo has his reasons for keeping secrets, repaying Jin Woo for what happened in the double dungeon. Jin Woo and Ju have a heart-to-heart about how much he's changed. Ju, on the other hand, feels she hasn't changed at all, admitting she's too timid to be a top-tier hunter. Despite being capable, she's planning to retire and return to her family, but they agree to keep in touch if they ever cross paths again. Woo had been skeptical of Jin Woo, unable to believe an E-rank could take down someone like Kong. But now he's starting to think otherwise. Meanwhile, Kang's brother Dong-soo, an S-rank hunter, might be coming after Jin Woo, enraged that his brother died while Jin Woo survived. This leaves Jin Woo with no choice but to get stronger, knowing he can't rely on the law to protect him from S-rank hunters. Woo suggests Jin Woo gather his family and leave the country, but Jin Woo sees it as another reason to power up. Jin Woo meets with Leo, only to be confused by Leo's ragtag strike team of people who have the potential to be hunters but are struggling in life. Jin Woo even points out that one of them is a high schooler. The girl retorts that she's a qualified hunter, though a little downcast when Jin Woo realizes she's only E-rank with no field experience. Still, Jin Woo doesn't care. They're paid well, and all they have to do is wait outside while Jin Woo and Leo handle the real work. There's just one catch. They can't talk about it to anyone, or they'll owe 10 times their pay. Jin Woo's new stealth rune from defeating Kong helps him learn stealth skills, and Leo is ready to raid with him. Jin Woo notices Leo's expensive armor and advises him to ditch it, though he lets him keep the helmet. The other hunters think they're crazy for raiding a C-rank dungeon alone, but Jin Woo and Leo don't care. They aim to complete 3 raids in a day. After easily clearing the first dungeon, they shock the other hunters by finishing so quickly. The pair continue raiding, with Jin Woo wiping out monsters and leveling up rapidly. Days pass, and they face tougher foes, but Jin Woo continues to grow stronger. Jin Woo's skills keep improving, but his mana runs low, so he decides to boost his intellect and mana capacity for longer battles. He holds off on returning to the Demon Castle for now, feeling he's between B and A rank. Then the system informs him he's reached the required level for a job change quest. Meanwhile, the boss of another guild, Anne, hears about Jin Woo's team and their C-rank raids. Intrigued, he starts to suspect that Jin Woo reawakened during the double dungeon incident, and goes to scout him out and is surprised to see Jin Woo left his team behind to solo the dungeon. He realizes Jin Woo might be a major discovery. Later, Jin Woo declines an offer from him to join his guild, even though the offer was double what his current company pays, and is shocked when Jin Woo asks about the worth of his guild's headquarters. Jin Woo reveals he's already getting a building worth 30 billion from another company, and, in disbelief, realizes he's dealing with someone far beyond what he expected. Jin Woo warns him not to snoop around, using his stealth ability to startle him. He makes a deal to allow Anne's guild to take 3 gates in exchange for 300 million each, surprising him. Jinwoo even heals An's face with a potion before disappearing again, leaving him convinced that Jinwoo is a force to be reckoned with. Jinwoo continues to dominate the raids, growing stronger with each fight, all while preparing for his mysterious job change quest that he knows will change his future forever. Jinwoo decides to accept the quest, and the gate opens. He suddenly remembers he hasn't done his daily quest yet, but he brushes it off for later. Declaring that the real game starts now, he steps through the gate. Meanwhile, Leo's having a meal with his father when his brother shows up. Inside the dungeon, Jinwoo quickly realizes he can't use potions or recover fully, and he won't be able to leave until the quest is completed. He knows he has to be careful. Suddenly, he hears something approaching and prepares for battle. It's an armor-type beast, and when Jinwoo attacks, nothing happens. Caught off guard by the creature's strength, he tries again, but the results are the same. Dodging its attacks, Jinwoo declares that he's fought stronger creatures before and finally tears the monster apart with his bare hands. Though frustrated for wasting his fatal strike skill, he quickly moves on because more enemies are coming. Meanwhile, Leo's dad asks how Ji-sung's efforts to form a guild are going. Ji-sung admits that all the S-rank hunters he's approached have turned him down, but he's now reaching out to hunters from other countries. This surprises Leo, who realizes that he'll be facing more competition soon. Back in the dungeon, Jinwoo continues to wreck monsters but knows he'll need to rest soon. His fatigue is building fast, and he has to finish the fight quickly. He realizes the monsters he's fighting mimic the abilities of old enemies he's faced: strength, stealth, and magic. But unlike before, Jinwoo is using his keen battle sense to analyze and counter each one. Despite the difficulty, he refuses to back down. Elsewhere, Mr. Choi meets up with the other hunters as they prepare to head to Jojo Island. Jinwoo finally manages to take down the monsters and finds a chest plate as a reward. He puts it on, happy to see it doesn't hinder his movement and even lets him turn invisible. His level has gone up, and he's collected plenty of gold items, which helps him recover. Continuing through the dungeon, Jinwoo opens a giant door and steps into what looks like a throne room. The intense pressure he feels reminds him of the double dungeon disaster, and he realizes he's facing a single, immensely powerful enemy, a knight commander named Igris. The fight begins, and Jinwoo is immediately overwhelmed by Igris's strength and speed. The knight cuts through pillars like they're nothing and tosses Jinwoo around effortlessly. Even with his speed, Jinwoo can barely keep up. His attacks do nothing against Igris's armor, and Jinwoo realizes the only way he can land any damage is to find a weak spot. He stores away his dagger, and to his surprise, Igris tosses aside his weapon too, turning the fight into a brutal hand-to-hand battle. Meanwhile, Mr. Choi calls the chairman to thank him for approving the operation. The chairman warns him to be careful, but Choi, aware of the dangers, reassures him. This expedition is just to assess the threat level, and they'll retreat if necessary. But Choi is still haunted by the last raid on Jojo Island, which never really ended for him. Back in the dungeon, Igris continues to overpower Jinwoo, landing blow after blow, sending him crashing through walls. Jinwoo realizes that without the armor he found earlier, he'd be dead by now. Knowing he can't outmuscle Igris, he decides to rely on speed. After a few well-placed attacks, Jinwoo manages to push Igris back, but the knight retaliates even harder, leaving Jinwoo barely hanging on. As Jinwoo's situation grows desperate, Igris prepares to end the fight, but Jinwoo refuses to give up. Blocking Igris's final blow with just one hand, he declares that he hasn't lost yet. Summoning his blade, Jinwoo drives it through a gap in Igris's helmet, pouring all his strength into the attack. The knight tries to use Jinwoo's blade, but Jinwoo pulls it back into his inventory, reclaiming it before delivering a fatal strike. With one final push, Jinwoo defeats Igris, though he knows it was a close call and any mistake would have cost him his life. His victory is rewarded with 4 items, including 1.5 million gold, Igris's S-rank helmet, and the demon's castle key. The helmet enhances his stats and reduces damage by 15%, while the runestone he earns gives him a new skill, Ruler's Hand. The last reward is a teleportation stone, but it can't be stashed in his inventory, which makes Jinwoo suspicious. He starts wondering if the job change quest is really over. Before he can figure it out, multiple portals open, and a notification pops up, revealing that the real job change quest is just starting. Jinwoo is tasked with surviving as long as possible to rack up advancement points, but he has no idea what that even means. As the clock starts ticking, Jinwoo braces himself for an endless wave of enemies. Relieved that these enemies aren't as strong as Eager's, Jinwoo charges in, confident he can handle them. But as the battle rages on and more enemies pour in, Jinwoo starts feeling the strain. Realizing he can't keep fighting like this, he tries to use stealth to buy himself some time, but a mage quickly breaks his cover. He's forced back into combat, and the situation becomes even worse when he loses the ability to use stealth and other key skills. After taking a brutal sword hit, Jinwoo realizes it's only been 5 minutes, and things are already spiraling out of control. Just when he's about to teleport out of the dungeon, a monster knocks the stone from his hand, leaving Jinwoo with no escape. As a huge group of enemies surrounds him, Jinwoo has no choice but to keep fighting. Thanks for watching. Don't forget to subscribe so you don't miss the next part.